When you're tired of holding everything together, Zen wisdom for emotional rest. Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing at the edge of an ancient forest where twilight paints the sky in shades of indigo and violet. The air is cool and carries the scent of pine needles and damp earth, that primordial perfume of the natural world settling into its evening rhythms. Before you stretches a winding path made of smooth river stones, each one worn to perfection by countless years of water and weather, their surfaces catching the last glimmers of daylight like scattered jewels. As you begin to walk this path, you notice how the forest around you seems to breathe with you. The gentle rustling of leaves creates a natural lullaby, a sound so ancient and familiar that your body immediately recognizes it as safety, as home. Overhead, the canopy of branches form a protective embrace, filtering the fading light into soft, dancing patterns that play across your skin. Each step you take releases a little more tension from your shoulders, your jaw, the places where you have been holding the weight of the world without even realizing it. The path leads you to a small clearing where an enormous willow tree stands sentinel, its branches cascading down like a living waterfall of green. Beneath this tree is a bed of moss, impossibly soft, impossibly inviting. As you settle onto this natural cushion, the willow's branches form a curtain around you, creating a sacred space of complete peace. The last sounds you hear are the distant call of an owl, the whisper of wind through leaves, and your own breath growing deeper and slower with each moment. Here, in this timeless place, you are held, you are safe, and you are finally, completely allowed to rest. Part 1. The Weight We Carry, Understanding Emotional Burden. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with physical tiredness. It's the exhaustion that settles into your bones after weeks, months, or even years of keeping yourself together. It's the fatigue that comes from being strong when you wanted to fall apart, from being responsible when you wanted to run away, from maintaining composure when everything inside you was screaming. This is emotional exhaustion, and it's one of the most profound forms of depletion a human being can experience. In our modern world, we've become experts at carrying things that were never meant to be carried indefinitely. We carry the expectations of others, the standards we've set for ourselves, the disappointments we've accumulated, the relationships we're trying to hold together, the careers we're building or maintaining, the families we're supporting, and the countless small responsibilities that fill every moment of our days. We carry our past traumas like invisible stones in our pockets, our future anxieties like weights strapped to our backs, and our present struggles like burdens balanced carefully on our heads. And somehow, through all of this, we're expected to keep walking forward with grace and efficiency. The Japanese have a concept called gaman, which roughly translates to enduring the seemingly unbearable with patience and dignity. While there's nobility in resilience, there's also a shadow side to this cultural expectation of perpetual strength. When we become too good at holding everything together, we forget that we were never meant to hold everything in the first place. We forget that the human spirit, while remarkably resilient, is not designed to operate under constant pressure without periods of genuine rest and release. Think about the last time you felt truly at ease, not just temporarily distracted or momentarily relaxed, but genuinely at peace, with nothing demanding your attention, nothing requiring your strength, nothing pulling at the edges of your consciousness with urgent needs or unmet obligations. For many of us, we have to think back weeks, months, or even years to remember such a moment. This is not normal, though it has become normalized. This is not sustainable, though we've somehow sustained it. And this is not what we were designed for, though we've adapted to it with alarming efficiency. The Buddhist tradition speaks extensively about dukkha, often translated as suffering, but more accurately understood as a pervasive unsatisfactoriness, a fundamental dis-ease with existence itself. According to the Buddha, this suffering arises from tanha, or craving, which manifests in three primary forms: craving for pleasure, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. But there's another layer to this teaching that's particularly relevant to our discussion of emotional exhaustion. The suffering we experience isn't just about what we want or don't want, it's also about what we refuse to release. When we examine our emotional burdens carefully, we discover that much of what we carry falls into several distinct categories. First, there are the burdens of identity, the exhausting work of maintaining the version of ourselves that we've presented to the world. This includes the persona we wear at work, the role we play in our families, the image we project to friends and acquaintances, and all the little performances we engage in to be perceived in certain ways. These identities require constant maintenance, constant vigilance, constant energy to uphold. Then there are the burdens of responsibility, both real and imagined. Real responsibilities are the actual obligations we've committed to, the genuine needs that depend on our care and attention. Imagined responsibilities are the ones we've taken on that were never truly ours to carry. These include trying to fix other people's problems, feeling accountable for outcomes beyond our control, taking ownership of other people's emotions, and attempting to orchestrate situations that would function perfectly well without our interference. The exhausting part is that both types of responsibilities can feel equally urgent and equally binding. We also carry the burdens of unprocessed experience. These are the emotions we haven't fully felt, the conversations we've left unfinished, the relationships that ended without closure, the losses we've never properly grieved, the joys we didn't let ourselves fully celebrate, the anger we've suppressed, the love we've held back, and the thousand small moments that passed through us without being truly witnessed or acknowledged. These experiences don't just disappear simply because we've moved past them on the calendar. They accumulate in the body, in the psyche, creating a kind of emotional debt that eventually demands payment with interest. Psychological research has identified emotional exhaustion as a core component of burnout. Burnout isn't just about working too many hours or having too many tasks on your to-do list. It's characterized by three primary dimensions: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. Emotional exhaustion specifically refers to the depletion of emotional resources, the feeling that you've given all you can give and have nothing left to offer. It manifests as chronic fatigue, irritability, difficulty concentrating, a sense of being emotionally drained or overextended, reduced empathy, and a desire to withdraw from people and responsibilities. The neuroscience of emotional exhaustion reveals fascinating insights into what happens in our brains when we operate under chronic stress. The amygdala, our brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive when we're constantly dealing with perceived threats, which includes not just physical dangers, but also social stressors, work pressures, and emotional challenges. While the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for executive function, decision-making, and emotional regulation, shows reduced activity, This creates a perfect storm where we're more reactive and less able to think clearly or regulate our responses effectively. Chronic stress also impacts the hippocampus, a brain region crucial for memory and learning. Studies have shown that prolonged exposure to stress hormones like cortisol can actually shrink the hippocampus, leading to difficulties with memory formation and recall. This is why when we're emotionally exhausted, we often find ourselves forgetting things we should remember, struggling to learn new information, or having difficulty accessing memories that should be readily available. The toll of emotional burden extends far beyond the mind into the physical body. Traditional Chinese medicine has long recognized the connection between emotional states and physical health. The 5 organ systems are each associated with specific emotions: the liver with anger, the heart with joy, the spleen with worry, the lungs with grief, and the kidneys with fear. When these emotions become chronic or excessive, they can literally affect the health of their corresponding organ systems. Modern medicine has confirmed these connections through psychoneuroimmunology, the study of how psychological states influence the immune system. When we carry chronic emotional burdens, our bodies respond as if we're under constant threat. The sympathetic nervous system, designed for short-term survival responses, remains activated for prolonged periods. This leads to elevated cortisol levels, increased blood pressure, disrupted sleep patterns, digestive issues, muscle tension, headaches, and a weakened immune system that makes us more susceptible to illness. The body, in its wisdom, is essentially trying to tell us that something is fundamentally wrong with how we're living. There's also a social dimension to emotional burden that we often overlook. We live in an age of compulsive connectivity, where we're expected to be constantly available, constantly responsive, constantly on. Social media has created an environment where we're performing emotional labor not just in our immediate relationships, but for hundreds or even thousands of people in our digital networks. We celebrate others' joys while perhaps grieving private losses. We present cheerful faces while dealing with depression. We engage in political debates while exhausted by the state of the world. And we maintain the appearance of having it all together when we're barely holding on. The emotional labor of caregiving, whether it's caring for children, aging parents, sick partners, or demanding friends, adds another layer to our burden. Caregiving requires us to set aside our own needs repeatedly to attend to the needs of others. While this can be deeply meaningful and rewarding, it can also be profoundly depleting, especially when it's unrelenting and unreciprocated. Many caregivers report feeling invisible, their needs unacknowledged, their exhaustion dismissed or minimized by a society that takes their sacrifice for granted. Cultural expectations around emotional expression create additional weight. Men are often taught that displaying vulnerability or sadness is weakness, leading them to carry their emotional burdens in silence, which increases isolation and intensifies suffering. Women, meanwhile, are expected to be endlessly nurturing and emotionally available, often at great cost to their own well-being. These gendered expectations, while slowly evolving, still exert tremendous pressure on how we handle our emotional lives. The weight of unexpressed, authentic self is perhaps one of the heaviest burdens we carry. When there's a significant gap between who we truly are and who we present ourselves to be, we experience a kind of existential exhaustion. This happens when we hide parts of our identity for fear of rejection, when we suppress our true opinions to maintain peace, when we conform to expectations that don't align with our values, when we pursue goals that aren't genuinely our own, and when we maintain relationships that require us to be someone we're not. In Buddhist psychology, this is related to the concept of the false self, a constructed identity that we develop to navigate the world, but that isn't aligned with our true nature. The energy required to maintain this false self, to keep the performance going, to never let the mask slip, is enormous. It's like running a computer program in the background that constantly drains your battery without producing anything of real value. The Zen tradition speaks of this exhaustion in terms of being caught in the world of illusion, the realm of Maya. We exhaust ourselves chasing after things that don't bring lasting satisfaction, avoiding things that are actually harmless, and generally operating from a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. We think we need to control everything when control is largely illusory. We think we need to be perfect when perfection is impossible. We think we need to constantly achieve when being is more fundamental than doing. There's a particular poignancy to the exhaustion of those who are spiritually seeking. Many people come to meditation, yoga, or other contemplative practices hoping for relief from their emotional burdens. Yet sometimes these very practices become another source of pressure. We try to meditate correctly. We judge ourselves for having thoughts during meditation. We feel like failures when we can't maintain a consistent practice. We compare ourselves to others who seem more advanced, and we add spiritual development to our already impossibly long list of things we should be doing. This is what's known as spiritual bypassing, using spiritual practices or beliefs to avoid dealing with painful emotions or unresolved psychological issues. We might use meditation to numb ourselves rather than to become more aware. We might adopt spiritual platitudes to dismiss legitimate grievances. We might focus on transcendence as a way of avoiding embodiment, or we might pursue enlightenment as an escape rather than as an awakening to what is. The contemporary teacher Tara Brach speaks of the trance of unworthiness, a pervasive sense that we're not good enough as we are, that we need to constantly improve, achieve, and perfect ourselves before we're worthy of love, rest, or peace. This trance keeps us in a state of perpetual striving, never allowing us to arrive at the present moment and simply be. It's a form of self-violence, a constant inner critique that drains our energy and darkens our experience of life. Understanding the weight we carry is the first step towards setting it down, but this understanding must be compassionate rather than judgmental. We didn't consciously choose to take on all these burdens. We absorbed them from our families, our cultures, our personal histories of trauma and survival. We developed coping strategies that made sense at the time and that perhaps kept us safe or helped us function in difficult circumstances. The problem is that these patterns often outlive their usefulness, becoming rigid patterns that no longer serve us. There's a Zen story about a monk carrying a heavy burden of wood up a mountain. A passing master asks him why he's carrying such a load. The monk replies that he must get the wood to the temple at the top. The master then asks, "But why do you carry it all at once?" The monk stops, confused. He'd never considered that he could make multiple trips, carrying less each time. He assumed that the way he'd always done it, the way he'd been taught to do it, was the only way. This is our situation. We carry everything all at once because we've forgotten we have options. We've forgotten that we can say no, that we can ask for help, that we can change our minds, that we can grieve losses and celebrate joys more fully, that we can be vulnerable and honest about our struggles, that we can rest without guilt, and that we can release burdens that were never truly ours to carry in the first place. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment, but attachment takes many forms. We can be attached to our successes and our failures, to our self-images and our reputation, to our plans for the future and our stories about the past, to our need to be right and our fear of being wrong, to our desire to be liked and our fear of rejection. Each attachment is a thread that binds us, and collectively these threads become the heavy net in which we're trapped. But the Buddha also taught that liberation is possible. Not liberation as escape from life, but liberation as a fundamentally different relationship with life, one characterized by ease rather than struggle, by acceptance rather than resistance, by presence rather than perpetual anticipation or regret. This liberation begins with recognizing the weight we carry, acknowledging the exhaustion we feel, and allowing ourselves to consider that there might be another way. Part 2. The illusion of control in Zen philosophy. In the West, we've built entire civilizations on the belief that control is not only possible, but desirable and necessary. We control our environments with air conditioning and heating. We control our appearance with diets and exercise. We control our schedules with careful planning. We control our children with rules and boundaries. We control our careers with strategic networking and skill development. And we attempt to control our feelings with various forms of emotional management. This drive to control has given us tremendous technological advancement and material comfort. It has also given us tremendous stress and a deep sense of underlying anxiety. The Zen tradition offers a radically different perspective. Rather than seeing control as the path to security and happiness, Zen teaches that our attempts to control themselves are the primary source of our suffering. This isn't because control is morally wrong or spiritually inferior. It's simply because the nature of reality itself resists control. Reality is characterized by impermanence, interdependence, and mystery. Everything changes. Everything is connected to everything else in ways we can't fully comprehend, and the universe operates according to principles that exceed our capacity for complete understanding. The Tao Te Ching, a foundational text of Taoism that deeply influenced Zen Buddhism, opens with these famous lines: "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name." This points to something fundamental. Reality itself transcends our conceptual frameworks and our attempts to pin it down with language or control it with action. The Tao, often translated as the way or the path, represents the natural order of things, the underlying pattern or flow of existence itself. When we try to control this flow, we're like someone trying to grasp water. The tighter we squeeze, the more it slips through our fingers. Zen master Shunryu Suzuki famously said, "Renunciation is not giving up the things of this world, but accepting that they go away." This is a profound reframing of what it means to let go of control. We don't need to reject or avoid the things and people we care about. We simply need to accept their fundamental impermanence, their independence from our will, their existence beyond our control. This acceptance doesn't make us passive or irresponsible. It makes us realistic and, paradoxically, more effective in our engagement with life. Consider how much energy we expend trying to control other people's opinions of us. We carefully curate our image, we explain ourselves endlessly, we try to prove our worth, we seek approval and validation, and we attempt to manage how we're perceived. Yet despite all this effort, people will think what they think based on their own histories, biases, needs, and interpretations. Someone might admire qualities in us that we barely value, while dismissing qualities we've worked hard to develop. Someone else might misunderstand our intentions completely, reading malice where there was care, or indifference where there was thoughtfulness. The Zen response to this isn't cynicism or indifference. It's a recognition that we simply don't control these outcomes, and that accepting this fact frees us from enormous amounts of wasted energy. When we stop trying to control others' perceptions, we become more authentic, more relaxed, more genuinely ourselves. Ironically, this often makes us more likable and trustworthy because people can sense when someone is performing versus when someone is simply being. The illusion of control extends deeply into our relationship with our own minds. We believe we should be able to control our thoughts, to think only positive or productive thoughts, to eliminate negative or disturbing mental content through willpower or technique. Yet anyone who has tried meditation discovers very quickly that the mind has a mind of its own. Thoughts arise unbidden, emotions surface without permission, memories intrude unexpectedly, and fantasies unfold without conscious direction. In Zen practice, we learn to observe this mental activity without trying to control it. We sit in meditation and watch thoughts arise and pass away like clouds in the sky. We don't judge ourselves for having thoughts, we don't try to suppress them, and we don't get caught up in their content. We simply notice thinking, 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 as the mindfulness teacher Joseph Goldstein suggests. This simple shift from trying to control thoughts to merely observing them creates a profound change in our relationship with our inner experience. The 16th century Zen master Takawan wrote about what he called no mind, or mushin, a state where the mind flows freely without getting caught on any particular object or thought. He used the metaphor of water. Water in a stream flows smoothly around rocks and obstacles without resistance. If water tried to push through obstacles or cling to certain positions, it would cease to flow. Our minds are like this. When we try to control them, to fix them in certain states or prevent certain thoughts, we create stagnation and suffering. When we allow them to flow naturally, there's an ease and fluidity that paradoxically allows for greater clarity and effectiveness. This principle applies powerfully to our emotional lives. We often believe we should control our emotions, feeling only those that are pleasant or appropriate and suppressing those that are uncomfortable or socially unacceptable. Yet emotions, like thoughts, arise from conditions beyond our immediate control. They're responses to our experiences, our histories, our neurochemistry, and the complex interplay of factors that make us human. When we try to suppress or deny our emotions, they don't disappear. They go underground, manifesting as physical symptoms, psychological symptoms, or erupting later with greater intensity. The Zen approach to emotions is similar to the approach with thoughts. Observe them with curiosity and compassion rather than trying to control them. This doesn't mean acting on every emotion or letting emotions dictate our behavior. It means creating space for emotions to be present, to be felt fully, without judgment or resistance. When we do this, something remarkable happens. Emotions that we feared would overwhelm us if we truly felt them actually move through us relatively quickly when we stop resisting them. It's the resistance itself that causes most of the suffering. Charlotte Joko Beck, founder of the Ordinary Mind School of Zen, taught that our life consists of this moment, right now, not the past, not the future, but this immediate present reality. When we try to control the future or change the past, we're not actually living. We're engaging in a kind of mental simulation that takes us away from the only time in which we actually have any agency, now. And even in this present moment, our agency is far more limited than we like to think. We can choose our actions, but we can't control their outcomes. We can make efforts, but we can't guarantee results. We can have preferences, but we can't force reality to conform to ours. This recognition doesn't lead to despair or paralysis. Instead, it leads to what Buddhists call skillful action, action that's appropriate to the moment and situation, that arises from wisdom and compassion rather than from anxiety and ego. When we're not exhausting ourselves trying to control outcomes, we have more energy and clarity for the actions that are actually within our power. We become more responsive and less reactive, more creative and less rigid, more peaceful and less anxious. The Japanese aesthetic principle of wabi-sabi illustrates this acceptance of impermanence and imperfection beautifully. Wabi-sabi finds beauty in things that are imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. A weathered wooden fence, a chipped ceramic bowl, autumn leaves scattered on the ground. These aren't flaws to be corrected, but expressions of the natural flow of time and change. When we try to maintain perfect control, to keep everything pristine and unchanging, we're fighting against the fundamental nature of existence. When we embrace wabi-sabi, we find peace in the midst of change, beauty in the midst of decay, and wisdom in accepting things as they are. Zen koans, those seemingly nonsensical puzzles that Zen students contemplate, are designed specifically to break through our habitual patterns of trying to control and understand everything through rational thought. A famous koan asks, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" There's no logical answer to this question. The point is to push the mind beyond its need to categorize and control, to create an opening for a different kind of knowing that doesn't depend on manipulation or management. When we investigate our need for control deeply, we often find it stems from fear. We're afraid of chaos, of unpredictability, of being hurt or disappointed, of losing what we have or not getting what we want. Control seems like protection against these fears. But Zen teaches that this protection is illusory. Life will bring what it brings. People will leave or die, jobs will end, bodies will age and sicken, plans will go awry, and unexpected challenges will arise no matter how much we try to control everything. The question is whether we'll face these realities with the additional burden of failed attempts at control or with the freedom that comes from accepting life on life's terms. This doesn't mean becoming passive or fatalistic. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, whose ideas align closely with Buddhist thought in many ways, taught the importance of distinguishing between what's in our control and what's not. Our thoughts, our values, our choices, and our responses are within our control. Almost everything else, what other people think, what happens in the world, the outcomes of our actions, even our own feelings to a large extent, is not within our control. When we focus our energy on what we can actually influence and release our attachment to controlling what we can't, we become both more peaceful and more effective. The Zen tradition speaks of just this, nothing more, as a way of describing the liberation that comes from releasing control. When we're fully present with just this breath, this moment, this experience exactly as it is, we're not trying to change anything or make anything happen. We're simply being with what is. This might sound boring or passive, but practitioners describe it as profoundly alive and satisfying. When we stop trying to control and improve every moment, we actually experience the fullness of life that was always here, but that we were too busy managing to notice. The contemporary teacher Pema Chodron speaks about the practice of not knowing, of becoming comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity rather than always needing to have answers and plans. This is tremendously challenging in a culture that values certainty, expertise, and having it all figured out. Yet the truth is that we're always operating with incomplete information in an unpredictable universe. The need to act as if we have control and certainty is itself a source of tremendous stress. When we examine our attempts to control our lives closely, we notice they're often rooted in a deep misunderstanding about the nature of the self. We imagine ourselves as separate, autonomous entities who can manipulate the world from a position of independence. But Buddhist philosophy teaches anatman, or no self. the recognition that this separate, independent self is itself an illusion. We're not isolated islands, but nodes in an infinite web of relationships and conditions. Our thoughts, our feelings, our very sense of identity arise from countless causes and conditions beyond our control or even our awareness. This teaching of no self isn't meant to be nihilistic or depressing. It's actually liberating. If there's no separate self that needs to control everything, then there's also no separate self that can fail at controlling everything. The burden of being a separate self trying to maintain control in a chaotic universe is released. What remains is simply life, flowing through the particular form that you are, without the additional layer of stress that comes from thinking you should be orchestrating everything. The practice of letting go of control begins with noticing when we're trying to control things. We might notice the tension in our body when we're trying to make something happen, the anxiety that arises when things aren't going according to plan, the frustration when people don't behave as we think they should, or the exhaustion from constantly trying to manage and arrange everything. These are all signals that we're operating from the illusion of control, rather than from acceptance of reality as it is. When we notice this, we can practice the simple but profound gesture of releasing. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or becoming passive. It means recognizing what's actually in our control and what isn't, doing what we can with wisdom and compassion, and then releasing our attachment to specific outcomes. As the Bhagavad Gita teaches, we have a right to our actions, but not to the fruits of our actions. We do our best and then let go, trusting that life will unfold as it will, regardless of our attempts to micromanage everything. This practice of letting go of control is deeply healing. When we stop trying to control everything, we have more energy for actually living. We become more present, more creative, more spontaneous, and paradoxically, often more effective, because we're responding to reality as it actually is, rather than to our ideas about how it should be. We find that we can trust the process of life itself, that there's an intelligence in the way things unfold that often surpasses what we could have planned or orchestrated. The wisdom traditions of the East have always understood what modern science is now confirming, that much of what happens in our lives is emergent, arising from complex interactions that we can't fully predict or control. We can influence these processes, we can participate in them skillfully, but we can't control them the way we control a machine. Life is more like gardening than engineering. We can plant seeds, provide favorable conditions, more effective. The Zen tradition speaks of just this, nothing more, as a way of describing the liberation that comes from releasing control. When we're fully present with just this breath, this moment, this experience exactly as it is, we're not trying to change anything or make anything happen. We're simply being with what is. This might sound boring or passive, but practitioners describe it as profoundly alive and satisfying. When we stop trying to control and improve every moment, we actually experience the fullness of life that was always here, but that we were too busy managing to notice. The contemporary teacher Pema Chodron speaks about the practice of not knowing, of becoming comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity rather than always needing to have answers and plans. This is tremendously challenging in a culture that values certainty, expertise, and having it all figured out. Yet the truth is that we're always operating with incomplete information in an unpredictable universe. The need to act as if we have control and certainty is itself a source of tremendous stress. When we examine our attempts to control our lives closely, we notice they're often rooted in a deep misunderstanding about the nature of the self. We imagine ourselves as separate, autonomous entities who can manipulate the world from a position of independence. But Buddhist philosophy teaches anatman, or no self, the recognition that this separate, independent self is itself an illusion. We're not isolated islands, but nodes in an infinite web of relationships and conditions. Our thoughts, our feelings, our very sense of identity arise from countless causes and conditions beyond our control or even our awareness. This teaching of no self isn't meant to be nihilistic or depressing. It's actually liberating. If there's no separate self that needs to control everything, then there's also no separate self that can fail at controlling everything. The burden of being a separate self trying to maintain control in a chaotic universe is released. What remains is simply life, flowing through the particular form that you are, without the additional layer of stress that comes from thinking you should be orchestrating everything. The practice of letting go of control begins with noticing when we're trying to control things. We might notice the tension in our body when we're trying to make something happen, the anxiety that arises when things aren't going according to plan, the frustration when people don't behave as we think they should, or the exhaustion from constantly trying to manage and arrange everything. These are all signals that we're operating from the illusion of control, rather than from acceptance of reality as it is. When we notice this, we can practice the simple but profound gesture of releasing. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or becoming passive. It means recognizing what's actually in our control and what isn't, doing what we can with wisdom and compassion, and then releasing our attachment to specific outcomes. As the Bhagavad Gita teaches, we have a right to our actions, but not to the fruits of our actions. We do our best and then let go, trusting that life will unfold as it will, regardless of our attempts to micromanage everything. This practice of letting go of control is deeply healing. When we stop trying to control everything, we have more energy for actually living. We become more present, more creative, more spontaneous, and paradoxically, often more effective, because we're responding to reality as it actually is, rather than to our ideas about how it should be. We find that we can trust the process of life itself, that there's an intelligence in the way things unfold that often surpasses what we could have planned or orchestrated. The wisdom traditions of the East have always understood what modern science is now confirming, that much of what happens in our lives is emergent, arising from complex interactions that we can't fully predict or control. We can influence these processes, we can participate in them skillfully, but we can't control them the way we control a machine. Life is more like gardening than engineering. We can plant seeds, provide favorable conditions, and tend the garden with care, but we can't force plants to grow at the pace we want or make them produce exactly what we envision. There's always an element of mystery, of nature following its own wisdom. When we align ourselves with this understanding, when we stop exhausting ourselves with futile attempts to control the uncontrollable, we find a different kind of strength. It's not the strength of forcing and manipulating, but the strength of flexibility and adaptability, of dancing with life rather than trying to dictate its steps. This is the strength of bamboo that bends in the wind rather than the oak that resists until it breaks. This is the wisdom of water that flows around obstacles rather than trying to demolish them through force. Part 3. The nature of holding on. Psychological perspectives. From a psychological standpoint, our tendency to hold on to things, both literally and metaphorically, is deeply rooted in our survival mechanisms. Human beings evolved in environments where resources were scarce and threats were common. Holding on to resources, staying vigilant for danger, and maintaining control over our environment increased our chances of survival. These ancient patterns remain encoded in our nervous systems, even though most of us now live in circumstances where immediate survival is not constantly threatened. Attachment theory, developed by psychologist John Bowlby and expanded by Mary Ainsworth, provides crucial insights into why we hold on so tightly to relationships, beliefs, and ways of being. According to this theory, our early experiences with caregivers shape our internal working models of relationships throughout life. If we experienced secure attachment, where caregivers were consistently available and responsive to our needs, we tend to develop a sense that we're worthy of love and that others can be trusted. This allows for healthy interdependence in relationships and the ability to be both connected and autonomous. However, if our early attachment experiences were insecure, whether avoidant, anxious, or disorganized, we may develop patterns of holding on too tightly to relationships or pushing people away before they can leave us. Anxious attachment manifests as a constant worry about abandonment and a tendency to become overly clingy or demanding in relationships. Avoidant attachment leads to keeping people at arm's length and maintaining excessive independence as a protection against vulnerability. Disorganized attachment combines elements of both, creating an internal conflict between the desire for closeness and the fear of it. These attachment patterns don't just affect our romantic relationships, they influence how we relate to everything: our work, our goals, our possessions, our beliefs, and even our sense of identity. Someone with anxious attachment might hold on to a job they hate because they fear they won't find anything better. Someone with avoidant attachment might quit relationships or projects at the first sign of difficulty to avoid the pain of deeper engagement and potential loss. Understanding our attachment style can illuminate why we hold on when we should let go, or let go when we should hold on. The concept of psychological defense mechanisms, first articulated by Sigmund Freud and elaborated by his daughter Anna Freud, also helps explain our patterns of holding on. Defense mechanisms are unconscious strategies our psyche employs to protect us from anxiety, threat, or painful emotions. They include repression, pushing uncomfortable thoughts or feelings out of awareness; denial, refusing to acknowledge painful realities; projection, attributing our own unacceptable thoughts or feelings to others; rationalization, creating logical explanations for behavior driven by unacknowledged motives, and many others. These defenses can cause us to hold on to situations, relationships, or beliefs long past their expiration date. For example, we might use rationalization to explain why we stay in a toxic relationship, creating elaborate justifications that prevent us from seeing the situation clearly. We might use denial to avoid acknowledging that we're unhappy in our career, convincing ourselves that everyone feels this way, or that we don't have other options. These defenses, while protecting us from immediate emotional pain, often create greater suffering in the long run by preventing us from making needed changes. The sunk cost fallacy is another psychological phenomenon that keeps us holding on when we should let go. This is the tendency to continue investing in something because we've already invested so much, even when it's clear that continuing won't lead to a positive outcome. We stay in dead-end relationships because we've already invested years. We continue pursuing degrees or careers that don't fit us because we've already spent so much time and money. We hold on to possessions because we paid good money for them, even though they no longer serve us. The rational response would be to cut our losses and redirect our energy toward more promising options, but the emotional weight of what we've already invested makes this incredibly difficult. Cognitive dissonance theory, proposed by Leon Festinger, offers another lens for understanding why we hold on. This theory suggests that we experience psychological discomfort when we hold contradictory beliefs or when our behavior doesn't align with our beliefs. To reduce this discomfort, we often change our beliefs to justify our behavior rather than changing our behavior to match our beliefs. For instance, if we're in an unsatisfying relationship but believe we're smart and make good choices, we might convince ourselves that the relationship is actually fine, rather than acknowledging that we made a mistake or that the situation has changed. This allows us to hold on to the relationship while avoiding the cognitive dissonance of admitting we're in a situation that doesn't serve us. The role of fear in keeping us holding on cannot be overstated. Fear of the unknown, fear of being alone, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of financial insecurity, fear of making mistakes, and countless other fears keep us clinging to familiar situations even when they're painful or limiting. The devil we know feels safer than the devil we don't, even when the known devil is making us miserable. This is why people often stay in abusive relationships, soul-crushing jobs, or unfulfilling life patterns. The fear of change, of uncertainty, of stepping into the unknown feels more threatening than the suffering of staying where we are. Grief avoidance is another powerful factor in our holding on. Letting go of anything, whether it's a relationship, a dream, a belief, or a phase of life, requires grief. It requires acknowledging loss, feeling sadness, and accepting that something that mattered to us is ending or has ended. In a culture that's deeply uncomfortable with grief and that often sees it as a problem to be solved rather than a natural process to be honored, we'll do almost anything to avoid it. We hold on to things that should be released simply because releasing them would require us to grieve, and we'd rather avoid that pain. The concept of learned helplessness, discovered by psychologist Martin Seligman, plays a role in why we hold on to limiting situations. When we repeatedly experience situations where we have no control and our efforts to change things don't work, we can develop a sense of helplessness that persists even when the situation changes and we actually do have options. This is why people who grew up in chaotic or abusive environments often struggle to recognize or act on opportunities for change in adulthood. They've learned at a deep level that their actions don't matter, that they're powerless, and this belief keeps them stuck in patterns that could actually be changed. From a neurological perspective, our brains are pattern recognition and pattern maintaining machines. Neural pathways that are repeatedly activated become stronger and more efficient.